now.
Hey everybody, this is Dr. Joe on this Wealth Wednesday. Hope everyone's doing well. Today we have a fantastic guest. Really taking a lot of time, to have him here, but I think it's going to be well worth it. I'm really, really excited to have our special VIP guest and so on. So with that said and done, let's get down to it. And again, my name is Dr. Joe. I'm a real estate investor. I've been doing this about 35 years in the Washington, D.C. area. And I've been through four cycles. I have a pretty good idea how these cycles work. And one thing I know is that there are opportunities regardless of the cycle that we're in. And we're going through a market shift right now. So I see a lot of potential opportunities as long as you know what you're doing, as long as you have the right team in place. And so on. My whole strategy is to buy and hold. I'm a firm believer in the benefits of real estate for the long haul, and my strategy is to do the BRRRR strategy, but I also do a lot of Section 8. And as you know me, I build wealth, but I also try and strive to do good, provide opportunities for families who otherwise would never get the opportunity to live in nice houses, nice neighborhoods, and so forth. So that's who I am. And so let's get going on this YouTube. It's our inaugural session on YouTube. And so welcome to all our new guests. And so on. So let's just get going. So our special guest is an icon in the real estate investing world and also a former host of the Bigger Pockets podcast. Brandon Turner is a best-selling author, podcaster, real estate investor, founder of Open Door Capital. He's an entrepreneur, speaker. Brandon is widely recognized as one of the foremost experts on real estate investing. I could go on for another 5 to 10 minutes. Showering him with praises and kudos, but I don't think we have enough time.
Keep it coming, man. I want to keep hearing it.
Yeah,
okay. A whole hour of just talking about me. That could be fun.
Exactly. So anyway, with that said and done, please welcome Brandon Turner to our first Wealth Wednesday on YouTube. Brandon, welcome.
Dude, thank you for having me. That was great. You only missed one thing. You forgot to mention how awkwardly tall I am in your introduction. So we're going to need you to redo that whole thing. I want to hear all about myself again. Go.
I saw Brandon for the first time at BPCon in New Orleans last year. I knew he had a big beard, but I didn't know how tall he was.
Yeah.
He's a gentle giant, as they say. How tall are you, sir?
I am just under 9 feet tall. I think I'm like 6 foot awkward, like there's like 6 handsome, like some guys are like 6 foot handsome, and everyone's like, oh, he's tall. And then there's 6 foot awkward, which is like, oh, he's tall. I'm that guy. I'm in the awkward phase of 6 foot. So that's me, and I am pumped to talk about real estate and racquetball. Those are my two things in life: real estate and racquetball. Nothing else matters.
We'll do the real estate first. If we get time, we'll get to the racquetball. We used to play in England. We used to play squash. So I don't know if you play squash here.
I've not played. Squash is like what the East Coast people play. Racquetball is what we do on the West Coast.
Oh, is that how it works? Okay.
West Coast representing here. I just did a gang sign. I'm going to get killed now. Okay. Thank you. My last live ever was with Joe, and then I get murdered for doing a gang sign. Thank you.
Let's see what I can do my gang sign as well.
There we go. Yeah. This is going real well. It's only uphill from here. That's what I'm saying.
So let's kick it off. So, Brandon, what do you say to people when they ask you this question? Brandon, what do you do?
Yeah, what do I do? Let's talk about what I do. So I invest in real estate. I write books about real estate. I do social media about real estate. I pretty much obsess in all areas of my life with real estate. And then I got 2 kids and a wife. And so I throw them in, and now they invest in real estate, even though my kids too. We're all doing it. It's my passion, my life. I love it. Not because I'm not the guy that's like, oh, I love like houses and how cute they look. I'm just like, real estate is like the greatest wealth building tool on the planet for the average person. If you're born like a multimillionaire, maybe you have other avenues, but man, for the average person like me or below average person like me, like, man, real estate is awesome because you don't have to be really smart. You just got to be like, follow a few simple rules and then be consistent for a long time. And it like works. So I'm all about it.
Okay, well, let's get going from the beginning. I know you were raised in humble beginnings in middle America, in Minnesota, I think it was. And one thing I gathered was that your father obviously was a hardworking man, and your mother taught you the value of money.
Ooh.
Yeah, the value of money. In fact, she has famous words was, no price is the actual price. Everything could be talked out. How about that?
That's true. My mom was a garage sale mom. We used to shop at the garage sale. My dad was the president of a venture capital firm. So he's a billionaire. And so he lent me the first $100 million. Is
that right?
No, I'm just kidding. My dad's a meat cutter. My mom did daycare in our house, and we would go garage selling every single Saturday. We'd load up the minivan with a bunch of stuff she'd buy, and she'd get everything like half off. And then like once every like month or so, she'd have a garage sale at our house and then sell all that crap for like twice what she paid for it. And that's how we put food on the table. So that's how I got started in trying to find good deals.
Well, yeah, right. Well, the reason why I bring that up is also used to, I think you're an expert grocery bagger market.
I know Pete Johnson was the expert. I was the apprentice. So my buddy Pete won like this bagging competition. I couldn't even hope to come up to his level, but you know what? I tried. I bagged groceries. I got tips. I once made a $5 tip from an old guy. Let's just say I started up pretty high level.
Well, again, the reason why I bring this is that you were born with a silver spoon in your mouth. You were born in pretty much a humble, surroundings like most people can kind of connect with. So on that journey from the greatest bagger of groceries to where
Second
you
greatest.
are.
Second greatest.
Yeah, second, right. Can I share with the audience some of the key milestones on your journey from a middle American guy to a renowned expert on real estate? Some of the key milestones for those people who don't know.
Yeah, man. All right, let me tell you my kind of like 3 stories that illustrate my journey real quick. So story number 1, I was headed to law school. I took the LSAT. I was applying for all the law schools. I read the book, John Grisham's book, The Firm, which is a fiction book about a lawyer. And I was like, I read that, and I didn't like. I mean, it was a good book. It's good. Everyone should read it. But I was like, shoot, I don't want to be a lawyer, because he keeps talking about how lawyers work like 80 hours a week for their whole life, and then like they're like 80 years old on their like 5th marriage, and they all have a drinking problem, and that's when they're rich. And I'm like, that scenario, all obviously like exaggerated, but that life of like work for the next 50 years so you can be the richest guy in the graveyard, just like it didn't sit right with me. So I was like, you know what, screw that. At the same time, I had bought a house just to like live in a house. I was like 21. I bought a house because it was cheap. It was like $80,000. I rented out all the bedrooms to some friends, and then I sold that house. I made like $25,000, and so I was like, dang, I made $25,000 by doing about 10,000 hours worth of painting and flooring. I should make that my career. That was way more fun than being a lawyer. So I dropped all plans for law school and ended up jumping into real estate. That's story number 1. Story number 2, I bought a duplex. Right after that, I sold the house, bought a duplex, and I rented out the other unit. And I remember my tenant paying me like cash for rent, or like $650. And my entire mortgage was like $620. So here I am at like 22 at the time now, and I'm living for free in like, and I can like quit my job, and I started flipping houses. But I remember that day that he handed me that cash, because I remember thinking like, well, first of all, I'm living for free. That's amazing. But second, I thought, well, what if I just bought a bunch of these? And that was like this like mind, like, well, if I bought one, what if I just people collect like bottle caps, people collect Pokemon cards. What if I collected rental units? And that's what I did. I was like, so I reversed it, and I was like, okay, if I had 30 rental units, I could be retired, because each one would make $100 a month. I'd be making $3,000 in cash flow. I can quit my job and retire on $3,000 a month. When you're 21, that's what you think. So over the next 6 years, I did that. Like I went and collected 30 rental units, and then I retired at 27. I was like, all right, I'm done. I'm retired. And then I realized pretty quickly that you can't really have a great life on $30,000 a year. You can't travel or really buy anything at all other than pay your bills. So that's what got me into the world of like internet marketing, because I needed an income so I could buy more real estate. Third story. So that's the first 2. Third story. I'm like 31 probably. I'm 37 today. So I was like 31, maybe 32 actually. And I go to this real estate conference, and I'm speaking at it because they put me on stage because I sell tickets because I got a big mouth, and so they let me talk. And I'm on there, and I'm talking to all these really high-level syndicators and real estate investors that are doing like hundreds and hundreds of units. And I realized I was the least qualified person in that room to be on that stage. Like I was just a like talking like whatever, like guy on stage. Like I didn't deserve to be there. And I remember on stage, I like swore to myself, I want to deserve to be here. Like I can do more than, I can have more than 30 units. Like I can deserve to be here. So I left there. I created a vision of what I wanted my life to look like business wise. Like I want this many units. And I said, I wanted to have 1,000 rental units in the next 3 years. And then I went out there and I did not buy 1,000 rental units. I ended up buying 3,000 rental units in that time. Wow. And then now we've doubled that since then. We're actually up to almost 8,000 rental units now.
Wow.
Years in. Crazy.
Wow. Fantastic. Well, good. Well, that kind of leads us to the focus of today's discussion, which is the 4 leadership levels, how to 10x, because obviously you've 10x, you've probably done more than 10x, 10x your growth by working 10x less. So it's a very intriguing title. And obviously it's clear that you have the authority to talk about this because you've demonstrated this. So that's good. So before we sort of get down into it, let's make sure we're talking the same concept. Leadership. Yeah. When we say leadership, what is your understanding of leadership?
Yeah, when I think of leadership, it's and maybe even leadership might even be the wrong word here. I mean, we'll use it because everyone understands that. But really what I'm talking about is like the mindset at which you attack your problems. So if you are a bad leader, the mindset in which you attack your problems is like, I'm going to do it all myself because I'm the only one that's able to do this and I can't help. Nobody else can do it. So a leader is somebody who can enable other people around them to attack bigger goals. And the more elevated your mindset is, the better you can do those bigger goals. So it's really more about mindset, and the right mindset will naturally make you a better leader. And so when I talk about like the 4 levels of leadership, what I'm really referring to is like the 4 mindsets that you can approach problems with. Like if your goal, let me give you a real tangible example.
Yep.
Let's say you want to build a roofing company. Because you think that roofing is a good company, which I actually do think that. If I was not in real estate, I'd probably go start a roofing company because roofs are always failing and it's an expensive product and there's a lot of really terrible competition out there. So you want to start a roofing company.
Yep.
Your mindset determines how you build that business.
Yep.
And are you going to build it as a high level leader? Or are you going to build it as a crappy leader and just do it all yourself? So here's the 4 levels. Mm-hmm. Level 1 says, I'm going to do it myself. Because I'm not a leader. I don't like leading people. I don't want to do it. I'm not good at it, whatever. And for years, a decade of my life, this is what I said. I do not want to be a leader. When I thought leader, I thought middle manager. From like that movie, like Office Space, like, Peter, I'm going to need you to come in on Saturday and Sunday. Like that, like horrible life of like middle management, work in a cubicle, performance reports, like all that stuff, just corporate America, middle management.
Yep.
That's what I equated. So level 1 mindset says, I'm going to do it myself. Yep. So I'm going to start a roofing company. I'm going to go and buy the roofing material. I'm going to get it. I'm going to haul it up on the roof. I'm going to nail it all in. I'm going to get my own customers. I'm going to do everything myself.
Yep.
A lot of people approach real estate this way, right? I'm going to go build a real estate business. I'm going to go analyze a bunch of deals. I'm going to go meet with real estate agents. I'm going to go talk to the bank. I'm going to go paint the unit. I'm going to go do all that. Now, there is nothing, let me say this very clearly. There's nothing wrong with this mindset. There's nothing wrong with it. You can be a DIYer your entire life. You can do it all yourself. You can have a great life doing that. However, every level that I'm about to talk about has a limit. Yep. I mean, how many roofs can you do if you're doing it all yourself alone? Like one a month? It might take you a whole month to do one roof, right? Like to tear it off and put it on. How many rental properties can you buy in a year if you're doing everything yourself? A couple? So the first level is like this DIY. And again, I did it for years. I was everything. I was fixing toilets. I was painting units. I was doing the roof. I got an accent there. Yeah, Minnesota accent. Yeah, roof. You can tell my Minnesotan accent comes out once in a while when I start talking about roofs. So I'm going to take the roof and I'm going to do it myself. And it's going to take me a whole month to get it done. So, okay, so that's a DIY level. Nothing wrong with it. There's a limit.
Yep.
Next level. All right, so you're like, well, I really don't want to do this roof myself. That's a lot of work. I'm going to hire my brother-in-law to come tear off the roof with me because that's a lot of work for me to do. In fact, he's going to do all the tear off I'll still maybe nail it on. Or maybe I'm going to hire my brother-in-law and his 3 buddies to tear off the roof. And I'm going to hire John over here to do the actual nailing of the shingles. I'm still getting the customers. I'm still there on the project. I'm probably just hauling garbage and doing whatever I can to make sure it's still working. That level I call the project manager level. Like, you're not necessarily doing every single solitary task, but you are outsourcing various things. In real estate, when I did that, I had my mother-in-law. I called her up and I'm like, hey, you just quit your job and retired. Are you looking for some more money? She's like, sure. And I'm like, how would you like to just answer phones when tenants call and then just like do whatever they need? Like if they got a problem, call a contractor. She's like, oh, I can do that. So we started paying her a few $100 a month, and all of a sudden I didn't have to talk to tenants anymore. It was amazing. Like, I was a little bit of a leader, right? I was not a good leader. Thankfully, she stuck with me all these years, and she's still doing it today on my Washington portfolio. But that's like that project manager level. It's my first entrance into being a leader. Mm-hmm. But again, every level has a limit. If you're still at the job site every day, how many roofs can you do in a month? A couple maybe at that point, maybe 1 a week. That's cool. Nothing wrong with that. That's great. Nothing wrong with any level. Third level is what I call the COO, or like the Chief Operating Officer. It's the person who runs a company. Yep. And this is usually the highest level most people get to. Imagine I'm going to go start a roofing company, but instead of doing the work, or instead of hiring my brother-in-law to do the work, I'm going to like run a company. I'm going to hire a foreman. The foreman's going to run 3 people that work underneath them. I'm going to hire a marketing professional to get me all the leads. I'm going to hire a bookkeeper. I'm going to hire, whatever. I don't know. I'm not in the business, but like, I'm going to hire these 5 people, and they are going to run the business around me. I'm in the center, and it's kind of wheel and spoke, right? Or hub and spoke, where like I'm in the middle and I meet with my team, and they all got their people, or like I'm at the top of this pyramid and there's all these people underneath me, and I'm running a company. Now, when you are at that level of leadership, it's phenomenal. I mean, you can get a lot of projects done. You can just build a bigger and bigger business. It's just that wheel gets bigger and bigger and bigger the more people you hire. The problem with the COO mentality, though, is that you're in the middle of it. You're still working 40, 50, 60, 100 hours a week. There's one more level that very few people I feel like get to early in life, and that is what I call either the architect, which is somebody who like designs the thing, but they're not actually building the house. They're like an architect, or maybe the better word is brand. They are the brand. Like, think of The Rock. You know The Rock? Like, a lot of people confuse me for The Rock. We look identical. So, me and Dwayne Johnson, right? So think of Dwayne Johnson, right? He's got tequila right now. He's selling tequila. It's all over the place. It's really popular. I don't even know what it's called. But did he go to wherever they're growing that? I don't even know what tequila is made out of. Did he go there and like check out the farms? Did he call up, the farmer? Did he go to the distillery? Did he negotiate? And nothing. He did nothing. All he was the brand. All he does is he's got the energy behind it. He's the energy of it. So Richard Branson is probably the most cliche, perfect definition of that energy, or that architect, that brand. I mean, he owns like 150 companies. I bet you Richard Branson doesn't even know all the companies he owns. He's just the energy, the force behind it. And so that's really the highest level of leadership or leverage, is where you don't have to do almost anything. The interesting thing about these 4 levels, then I'll shut up and let you talk. The interesting thing is that the higher you go, the less you have to work, yet the more money you make. Think of like McDonald's, right? Who works the most? The frontline workers, 40, 50 hours a week. They're sitting there flipping burgers. But who makes the least amount of money? The frontline workers, right? The higher up you go, the less you have to work, because you're leveraging other people and leveraging teams. So if you want to work less, just elevate your mindset up to a higher level. You don't have to start with be a brand necessarily. You're not going to be Dwayne Johnson, but you can start. This is. Let me give you 2 final wrap-up points on this topic. Number 1, I said this earlier. I'll say it again. It doesn't matter what level you're at. It doesn't matter, but every level has a limit. And number 2, you choose where you start, and you choose where you're at every single day. You do not have to start DIY and slowly work your way up. Instead, just ask yourself, what would Richard Branson do? What would Joe do? What would Brandon do? Think of somebody who is already in that mindset position, who's already thinking that way, and then operate from their mindset. Say, what would they do? So if I were to start a roofing company, the first thing I would do is go hire a COO. I'd go hire a CEO or a COO. They're going to build the company. I'm not going to build it. They're going to build it. I don't do that. I'm the brand. I'm the architect. I have the idea. I'm the visionary. but I'm not going to do the rest. So that is essentially kind of how I look at leadership is you choose what level you want to go at, and the level you're at will dictate how much work you do and how far you can go. Rant over.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Let me see if I can summarize this for those people who want to digest it. Correct me if I'm wrong here, Brandon. There are 4 levels of leadership. The first level, you call it the DIY. This is this sort of lone ranger. They're the doer. They're all about doing the heavy lifting, and they primarily operate on checklists. Check this, do this, do this, do this, and so on. It's like it's like a focus on completion tasks. That's essentially what they focused on. I got to get this done. Let me do it. I got to get that done. Let me do it, and so forth. That's the DIY, as you call it. Yep. Then you have the second level, sort of the manager, project manager level, and that person realizes that he can't do everything themselves. They need support. They need help, and so they elevate to that second level, and now they get the doers to do the work for them. Is that right? The DIY, okay, so like that. And so I'm assuming at a management level, you're more focused on systems. You're more focused on processes. You're more focused on consistency, making sure that everything is sort of moving, repetitiveness or something like that. That's what the manager does. Make sure everything is consistent, whether you go from one roof to another roof and so forth. Then you get to the COO level, which is the third tier, and is sort of he's like the conductor, or she's like the conductor of the orchestra. Yeah. And they're the ones who are moving things along, but everything kind of revolves around them. Okay, if something happens to them, the whole thing could possibly collapse. Yep. And so forth. However, they do have the vision. They do have people who look up to them, and they're making things work. Then you get to this fourth tier, which you call the architect brand. And this is the person who essentially is a visionary. He or she realizes that, the way to scale, the way to 10x, the way to really get things done is to become the brand. And you have people who kind of replicate what it is that you stand for, and so on. Is that a fair summary?
It's a great summary. Yeah, it's exactly what it is. And I'm not saying everyone has to be at the brand, but and I'm not always in the brand. I'm not always the architect. Sometimes I DIY stuff. It's okay. Sometimes I'm the project manager, but it's the recognition. It's having the idea of what am I actually doing right now? I'll give you an example. A few weeks ago, we were starting this big raise for an apartment deal that we're doing. So I start the raise, and I instantly know that I'm going to have to reach more people than I can normally reach. I'm going to have to do some advertising on the internet, right? Okay. So the first thing I do, I'm like, okay, how do I advertise? How do I go and do Facebook ads, and really broadcast my name out there? Okay, so I go to Google and I type in Facebook ads tutorial and Facebook ads course. And I start looking at different options I can do to learn the stuff. And then I was like, wait, what am I doing? I'm not a DIY guy. What am I doing? What am I going to learn? That's stupid. There are people whose entire job for the last 10 years has been Facebook ads. Why would I try to learn it from step one? Right. So I was like, no, how would Richard Branson do this?
Yeah. Okay. I got it.
Right. And then I'm like, oh, what would he do? So it's recognition. He would probably just go and find the best. He'd probably go ask his network, hey, who's the best Facebook ads group out there that can run Facebook ads? And then somebody would be like, hey, go use John's company. And he'd be like, great. Hey, John's company, can you come take care of this for me? And then he would go back to golfing or skydiving or whatever he does, right? So it's just the recognition of where you're at, and does that align with where you want to be?
Right.
And that's what helps you grow.
But not everybody, to be a Richard Branson requires different skill sets.
Sure.
Than to be the guy who's banging the nails on the roof.
Yeah. So think about you kind of hit the nail on the head a minute ago, right? when you're the DIY guy, what skill set do you need? You need the do stuff, right? If you're doing a roof, you got to know how to nail a roof. If you're doing real estate, you got to know how to analyze a deal, how to talk to a bank, right? But what skill set do you need to be a project manager? Well, you got to set some deadlines for people. You got to hold them accountable. If you're going to hire your plumber, you don't want to do plumbing anymore. You just want to call the plumber. That's a project manager job. Great. You got to know how to get a plumber to show up. That's an important skill. But if you're a COO, you're not calling the plumber as a CEO or COO of a company. So now you got to be able to you got to find and influence your team to call the plumber. That's your job now, is to be able to find the right people. So your whole life as a CEO really is to like establish like systems and processes for the company. So everybody has a role in the organization. Everyone's moving forward together at the same time, and everyone feels good. That's the CEO role or COO role. And the skill set for the brand, it's different entirely. It's, can you influence people? That's the biggest thing about can you envision where you're headed and then influence people to go there?
Yeah.
And that is the ultimate, what's the word? Ultimate skill. In fact, when I was younger, I used to think the most ridiculous college degree that anybody could ever get was communication. I was like, why would somebody get a degree in communication? What could you possibly do with that? Today, I'm like, the number one most important college degree, probably the only one I think worth getting for the average person, is communication. Because if you can communicate your points well, like, you can do anything. You can get anybody to do anything if you can be a good communicator. Okay, well, that's a good one. So you talked about communication as a key skill to have. What are the key? Because somebody can say, are leaders born? Are leaders created? Can you train? Can you go to school to be a leader? Or is that something that's sort of innate and natural? And so on. So what are the key things that you feel, in addition to communications, a good leader should possess? Yeah, such a phenomenal question. So what skills should a good leader possess? All right. First of all, a good leader, understands, in my opinion, that they work for their employees or for their team or for their people. It's not the other way around. Like, they work for them. So like at Open Door Capital, like, although I'm the leader, so to speak, at the top, it's really like my whole job is just to like empower my people to do their job really, really well. Because I'm not good at really anything. Like, I'm decent at talking, but even that, like, I got a lisp and I'm like, I stumble and I ramble. So like, I'm not even that good at that, right? Like, but a good leader empowers their people to believe in themselves and then conquer like a mountain, like go take down a castle, something, right? Like if you think about a leader, like, let's go like old school, like Braveheart. Like, what was like William Wallace from Braveheart, right? Like, what was his skill as a leader? It was the fact that he could ride up and down people, like up and down like the line of soldiers, and give a really good speech and get people like marching in the same direction. If you can do that, if you can point to where you're going and then get people to go there with you, that is everything. And so like, and the question is, is a leader born or is a leader made? I was not a leader in any way, shape, or form ever. I was such not that guy. And I still, like, I hate management. I hate performance reviews. I hate all that crap. But that's not what a leader is. That's what a manager is. A leader is somebody who can inspire people to move in the same direction together. That's it. And so, like, when I came back from that conference, I went to that conference where I was on stage and I realized I was just like not living up to my potential. I read this book called Vivid Vision by a guy named Cameron Herold. And the book is about having a very clear idea where you're headed. Because like, how are people supposed to rally behind you if you don't have an enemy to fight or a hill to climb, right? If you're like, hey, everybody, let's go. And everyone's like, where are we going? And you're like, I don't really know. I want to go. Like,
right. But I think that, based on what you're telling me, you've got to be able to motivate people. Okay. You've got to be able to communicate. Sure. You've got to be able to listen. Yes. You've got to be able to be, you hold yourself accountable, and you also have to hold other people accountable, I assume. Yeah. These are skill sets, and I think that you also need to be able to make decisions. Yeah. That inspire, that gets people to work with you or follow you, and so on. These are additional skill sets, I'm assuming, that are important. Would you agree with that?
100%. Yeah, it's not like leadership is like a natural ability, but it's also not something that's unlearnable. Like, it's like literally like there's probably been 1 million books written about leadership. Like, you pick one up and you're like, oh, a good leader does this. Like, I once read in this book about leadership. I mean, it was actually a fiction book, but they were talking about leadership in it. And there was a military operation going on with a non-military leader. Like, this guy was like somehow thrust into the situation and he had to lead a team, and he was not a military leader. And this consultant comes up and talks to him, like this like other military leader guy. And he's like, listen, man, you've got to lead these people. And he goes, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I'm not a leader. And he said, it doesn't matter. You need to just be confident, weigh your options, decide the best path, and then be confident and go towards it. Like, that's it. Like, and once you do that, everyone will follow you, because like 99% of the world just wants to be led.
That's
I want to be led, right? Imagine going into you go to a car dealership, right? Like, I actually get irritated when I go to a car dealership and they're not selling me a car. Or I go to a shoe store, right? And they're not selling me shoes. I'm like, just sell me some freaking shoes. Like, be a little aggressive with me, not like crazy, but like, tell me, like, okay, so I go to a shoe store one time. This is my first time at a fancy shoe store. I go in there, and the guy looks at me. He goes, what can I happen? I'm like, well, I'm doing a marathon in a few months, and I need some good shoes for it. He goes, how tall are you? I'm like, 6'5". And he goes, okay, you're going to need a size probably, 12, 13? I'm like, yeah, 12 and a half. He's like, okay, don't do anything over here. You want this pair of shoes right here. I'm not going to let you buy anything else. This is what you need. And I was like, yes. So I bought them. The whole thing took me a minute. I loved that. And those were the best shoes I ever owned, because this guy was so confident. He led me right to what I needed because he was an expert and he was confident. He led me there. People just want to be led. People want to be sold. People want to be motivated. And as a leader, you can just choose one day, be like, no, that's going to be me. I'm going to choose to lead today, not to follow. And then people will follow you as long as you know where you're going and you're confident about it.
Let's talk about the whole 10X thing then. Sure. When we talk about 10X, we talk about revenue.
Yeah.
What are we talking about when we say you can 10X your business?
In fact, let's have some fun here. Hold on. All right. We're going to have some fun. Hold on. Okay. I'm pulling out a marker. And
where are you?
I'm right here. All right. We're going to have some fun here. All right.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see if I can do this. Here's what I mean when I say. Here's what I mean when I say 10x. All right.
Okay.
You see this in the middle of the screen?
I see it.
Okay. I don't. I've never really done this quite this way before, but I'm gonna make it work. Let's just say real true story. When I started flipping houses, like when I was younger, I bought a house to flip. It took me 12 months. Is that backwards or is that forward?
I can't see you. Yeah, there it is. That's good. That's good.
12 months. Okay. It took me 12 months to flip my very first house.
Yeah.
Because I did everything myself. I was the DIY guy.
Yeah.
1 year, one house.
Yeah.
What if I wanted to 10x that? What if I wanted to do 10 houses in the year? Let's even go higher. Let's 12x it. What if I wanted to do one house a month? Okay, so to do 12 houses in 12 months, what would that take? Now, again, who, not how. So what would that take really is who would that take? So let's just brainstorm. Who would we need to have a team? What would our team have to look like to do a house every single month? We would probably need somebody full-time on acquisitions, right?
Yep.
ACQ, right? For acquisitions.
Yeah.
There we go.
There
acquisitions.
I can see the screen. I can't see you.
Okay. You need a full-time, let's just say you had a full-time acquisitions person. All they do is off-market deal for me.
Got it.
Off-market. I'll show this to everyone later. All right. You also have somebody who's probably going to be like, we'll call it a project manager. Project manager. All right. So you got your acquisitions, your project manager. What else? No, project manager is going to deal with finding contractors and dealing with the flips. Your acquisitions person is going to be in charge of getting you, like, sending out 5,000 letters every month, taking all the phone calls, right?
Yeah.
All right. Who else do you need? Maybe a bookkeeper to handle all the money. So we'll just call it the money.
You need to raise money as well.
Okay, so let's just say you had a full-time money earner. Like the money person's in charge of dealing with all of the money. If you're going to raise private money, but also they're going to deal with the hard money lenders. Yeah. There's the money person, right?
Yeah.
And then maybe they outsource to a bookkeeper underneath them. All right. Does that sound like a pretty good?
That's a good start.
That's a pretty good start for if you had this.
Yeah.
You had somebody that, like, first of all, that person, the acquisition person, they were born to acquire properties off market. They're incredible. They've got a great personality. They understand how to do a sales funnel. They've done it for 5 other people over the past 10, 15 years. They are the best person in the world at this job, and you brought them into your company and you properly aligned them with salary, motivation, whatever you had to do to get them in there. Could that person help you buy one house per month? Guaranteed, right? No problem. All right. You've got a project manager who's been working as a contractor for the last 35 years as a foreman on a construction company.
Yep.
He's really good. He knows every contractor in town. He's been making 65 grand a year as a foreman because that's what contractors make. You offer him 85 grand a year plus some kind of bonus for every house that you flip. Is that guy going to be able to manage one house a month? Yes.
Definitely.
Right?
Yep.
Definitely. All right. So you got the money person. Could they handle talking to some hard money lenders and getting some financing done?
Definitely.
I'm sure. Like, if you had 3 people, is there any chance in your mind you could not flip 12 houses every single year? Of course you could. And let's say each one averages 50 grand a piece. You're now bringing in $600,000 every year. Now you got to pay for your people, right? So let's say each one of those averages $100,000 a year. Okay. So now you're only making $300,000 a year in your career.
Yeah.
But here's the magic of the amazing kind of the final point in this. When you have the right team, when you have that acquisitions person who's amazing, he's not doing one house a month. He's doing one house a week because he's really good. And you've got a really good project manager. He can't do one a month. He's doing one a week as well. And now you've got a money guy who can also pull that off because they're just really good at their thing. That's their thing that they were put on this earth to do. So now all of a sudden you're doing 52 flips every single year. So this is the magic, right? Not only did you 6x your income because you're making, you were making 50 grand a year by doing one flip. Now you're making 300 grand a year. You're working 3 hours a week managing these people. Maybe you even have a COO at the top. This is really the key. If you want to be the brand, you hire someone to run the whole operation for you. They're doing 52 flips a year. You're sitting in the Bahamas on your yacht, right? Because you've got a team. And so that's what I mean by 10X. You can literally, if you build the right team around you, they will, what's the word? Synergy? I hate that word, but synergy is it's 2 + 2 = 10. When you get 2 + 2 + 2 = 10, it's like multiple people together and they're all born for that role. They will do 10X what you can do because you're not good at all those things. You're an entrepreneur. You're not good at that stuff. I'm not good at that stuff. But you get the right people in the right seats on the bus, and then you just give them the vision. We want 52 deals a year. Go get it. And you give them all properly motivated and incentivized so that they make a killing by doing it. You're going to 10X your income. You're going to 10X your profit. You're going to 10X your deals, 10X your unit count, and you're going to work 10 times less because your only job at that point, when you're at that level of leadership, your only job is to likely keep keep your COO on track. You meet once a week with your COO. And if the crap hits the fan and you got to step in and make some phone calls or you got to go and talk to a lender because you're the brand and they want to talk to you, fine. You do a couple more calls each week. But you're working 10 times less and you're making 10 times more. And it sounds so simple. And I promise you it is that simple. It's just not always that easy because people are so stuck in the DIY. I got to do it all myself. I don't want to be a leader. I don't want to, put myself out there. I don't want to be wrong, that they hold themselves back. So there you go.
So, okay, then that's good. So that's exactly, I think it makes a lot of sense. Now, one thing which I understand is that you have 2 types of organizations in that scenario. You've got something whereby you create it from scratch and you bring in the key people and therefore you're bringing in the stars from the get-go. And then you have a situation whereby you have an existing organization and you're trying to 10X, an IBM. You're trying to 10X, whatever it is. That is if you have an existing organization, you're trying to 10X that versus whereby Brandon brings his superstars together and then creates a 10X. There are 2 different scenarios there, I assume. I assume that when you're trying to 10X an IBM, for example, you're going to get a lot of pushback from people who say, well, you're trying to rock the boat. We've been doing this for the last 20 years, and who the hell are you trying to change the world? You know what I mean?
Yeah, they call that the innovator's dilemma. It's like large companies, they can't afford or they won't choose to innovate because of the way things have been done. And so old companies get beat out by new companies who are willing to innovate and willing to be nimble and willing to change. Now, it doesn't mean let's say you've been in a company for 5 years, you've been growing by 5% per year. that my assumption usually is because the leader is somebody who is okay with 5 or 10% growth per year.
Right.
But right, it's like the projection you put out there is like, this is what we expect, is typically what you get.
Yeah.
But when you start throwing things out, I mean, this is straight out of like the 10X rule from Grant Cardone.
Yeah.
When you set a goal 10 times bigger, you cannot get there using the methods that you currently are. Right. You have to think laterally. You're not thinking the same way. You're doing lateral thinking. You're thinking a completely different idea. Like, well, what if we did this crazy thing? Or what if we did like, you're spinning, like you are forced to think so much differently because of that. And that, again, that just goes back to the leadership thing. If you're a good, like, it all comes down to the leader. Is the leader going to drive you to 10X growth or 10% growth? That's up to the leader to decide.
Okay, I think it's now 7:40 where I'm at, and then we have to get down to some questions in it. Let me just sort of talk about what's going on in your world, current activities. The market's changing. How are you adapting to the new environment in your business?
Yeah, man, the market is changing a little bit. We do believe the real estate market is softening. The economy as a whole is likely in a recession. I think I don't know if we're officially calling it a recession yet, but we think we all know that that's what's coming. I am not slowing down. So here's my thing. I'm a big believer that this is not just me. This is like fact, but like massive amounts of wealth is created in times of economic uncertainty in recessions. Recessions build millionaires. Most like wealth is created from people who were three things. You really have to have these three things if you want to succeed in a recession. Number one, you have to be smart. Because things are changing. You can't just do what you've always done. You got to be smart, look at what's going on. You have to be nimble, which means you have to adapt and change and be adaptable and look at what's happening all the time. So you're smart, you're nimble, and you're bold. If you're not bold, or when I say bold, I mean willing to take some risks or being brave out there and not just hiding in a corner. If you're smart, nimble, and bold, you will generate a lot of wealth during this period. In fact, it's harder like during this period. I mean, I'll give you, I brought this up earlier, but I'll give you an example. It's harder to raise money right now than it has been in years because no one wants to sell their stocks. Yeah. Stocks were just going crazy for years and like going, double digit, triple digit returns. And everyone made all this money. And so the people were selling stocks at the height so they could dump it into real estate. It was great. We were raising money. Like we were raising like $20 million a day. It was crazy. Like when we'd launch a deal. All of a sudden, the stock market dropped. Nobody wants to sell at the bottom, so nobody's selling. So what we were forced to do then to raise more money is we had to think laterally. We had to think differently. How are we going to reach 10 times more people? And that's where I brought up the advertising thing earlier. So we started doing Facebook ads, and I brought in a really great company to help. And we have been like playing with webinars. We've been doing all this stuff that because it's hard right now, we are getting very, very good at these systems and at these like other ideas that we didn't have to do before, right? It's like the whole thing. You've probably heard that phrase, like good times make, good times make weak men make bad times, whatever that whole thing, like bad times make strong men and strong men make good times. It's like this idea, like adversity gives you muscle. Like we don't get muscle by going to the gym and lifting 3 pounds, right? You build muscle by doing hard things. So in an economy like this, a lot of people are like, oh, it's a recession, let's run away. I'm thinking we are double downing. We are going to figure out how to make this work by being smart, nimble, and smart, nimble, and bold. But we're going to work harder. So when things get easier, when the markets go back to normal, we are going to be 10 times better than we were when we started this thing. So that's how I look at this period, as being careful, but being adaptable and being bold. And so we're actually buying, we got an apartment in Austin we're buying right now. It's like an $80 million apartment building we're buying. We're in the middle of the raise for that thing right now. And we just closed a fund recently on like these 3 other deals, the apartments. And yeah, man, I'm excited about the future. I think real estate's going up and up and up, especially commercial properties, because rents are going up and up and up because of inflation. So
question
is a real estate investor's best friend.
When you're operating a nimble organization and you have different personalities flowing in the same direction, disagreements, delegate. How do you handle disagreements when honest disagreements? Because obviously you have a very cohesive team, but sometimes there are fundamental differences in terms of a strategy or an action or whatever it is. How do you handle that, and what does a good leader deal with those kind of situations?
Yeah. So remember earlier when I did the whole like the whiteboard thing, right? Like this guy, the acquisitions guy.
Yep.
This one.
Yep.
He is way better at acquisitions than I could ever hope to be, because he was born to do it. Maybe he's had years of experience, or maybe he just has the right skill set, and I've empowered him to do it, right? So 99 times out of 100, if there's a disagreement between what I think is the right way to do it and what my expert that I've hired and empowered to do it, I will go with whatever they say 99 times out of 100.
Yeah.
Because they are smarter than me. That's why I hired them. If I wanted somebody that was dumber than me, then I would make the choice. But I don't. I hire people that are better than me.
Yeah.
So first of all, there's that. But the thing is, like, I cast the vision. I set where we're going, right? Yeah. I let them choose their individual way of getting it. Now, if I disagree with them on something, let's say like they're doing it one way and I'm like, I don't like the way you're doing that. Rather than me yelling at them and saying you're wrong, because guess what? I might be wrong. They might have knowledge that I don't have. They might have insight that I don't have, right? So instead, I respond with questions, with curiosity, and genuine curiosity, right? So let's just say, example, go back to this thing. Let's say I'm like, all right, we're going to flip 52 houses with this team. We're going to make a lot of money this year. And then, you know, my guy is like, we're going to do direct mail marketing. And I'm like, direct mail? Does that even work anymore? Like, so many people are doing it, right? In my head, that's what I'm thinking is you're wrong.
Right.
And so I instead of me going to the guy and saying, you're wrong, direct mail doesn't work anymore. I know it's, which by the way, everyone, that's not true. It might work just right.
Got it.
I'm like, oh, so what kind of response rate do you think we can get from direct mail? Like what kind of percentages are we getting? He'd be like, oh yeah, my buddy does direct mail right now in this city and he's getting 4% because he's got this really unique letter that's working really well. And I'd be like, oh, well, shoot. Yeah, let's do direct mail. That sounds great, right? Because I didn't know. I didn't have that knowledge. But if he goes, I guess I don't know. I mean, let me ask around. And then he goes and finds out that direct mail is actually not working at all. Well, then he made the decision that direct mail did not work anymore because I just asked a curiosity question, right? So I still let him make the choice, but my question led him to the best answer. And so as a leader, I just ask a lot of questions.
Okay. Final couple of questions for the Q&A. Legacy, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, 5,000, 8,000 units. At the end of the day, you know, what do you want to leave? What does Brandon Turner would like to be remembered for? Why is he doing all this? When does enough?
I got two words for you. This is my goal in life. All right, I'm going to put a big circle around it so you can see where it's at because this page is getting messy. Oh, I can erase on here. Look at that. All right. That's it right there. That's my mission in life.
Die broke.
Die broke. So, legacy, I could care less about the money. I want to die broke. What I mean by that is I want to make $1 billion and then give $1 billion away. I don't want my kids to inherit money. I mean, maybe they'll get some properties or something like that down the road. I don't care. I want to die broke because we all die broke, right? But I want to make $1 billion and give it all away. I think that sounds like a pretty good last half of my life. But most importantly is I want my kids to have good character. Like nothing else like really matters. Like if my kids go through life with good character, then I won. Like the only game that I care about is that my kids end up with good character. So all the money in the world, all the the deals, investment stuff, I don't care. Do my kids have good character? If yes, then I won. Fantastic.
Let's go to a couple of Q&As. Okay, Francis, how can we use this formula to 10x buy and hold?
Sure. All right, let's talk about buy and hold real quick. I won't map it all out. All right, you know what? I'm not going to map it out, but I might just for the heck of taking notes right now for myself. All right, so let's talk about 10x. 10x your portfolio. Whoever asked that question, well, let's have to make some assumptions, but I was going to say, like, what's typically in a year? Like, what do you do in a year? How many units are you buying in a year? Let's just call it you're buying 5 units a year. All right. So you're buying 5 units a year. Maybe you buy a couple of duplexes in a single family house. That's pretty normal for somebody to do. Let's 10x that. 50 units in a year.
Okay.
You got to think differently. Okay. Well, what would you have to do to buy 50 units in a year? Well, you got a couple options, right? You can go up or you can go wide, right? You could go buy a 150 unit apartment building. And then let's ask the question, Who do you need around you? What does your team have to look like to go buy a 50-unit apartment building? You could DIY a 50-unit apartment building. That's fine. Or you could do 50 houses, or you could do 25 duplexes. You get to kind of choose that, right?
Yeah.
So by now you've got a 10x bigger goal. Now ask the question, okay, well, like, what's that? What does that look like? What team do you need to get there? Define the goal, ask what team you need that's going to get you there, and then just build that team to get you there. So if I think of like, let's even 10x that number. Let's go 500 units a year. You want to buy 500 units every year.
Wow.
Right? What does that look like? What would you need to have for that? You'd probably need a full-time acquisitions person. Acquisitions. You would need, it's very similar to what we talked about before, right? You have a full-time acquisitions person. You have a money person.
Yeah.
You're going to have, I don't even know. Like, what else do you need? You're going to have a money person, an acquisitions person.
Well, if you're gonna buy and hold it, you're gonna need some kind of property management. If you're gonna sell it, you're gonna need some kind of disposition.
Let's call that asset manager. You bring somebody in who's in charge of finding property managers, managing them, and also getting rid of your deal, right? So we can call it an asset manager, maybe.
Yep.
All right. So you're going to do acquisitions, a money guy who's in charge of raising money, like an investor relations guy, maybe a bookkeeper, maybe a COO, like somebody who's to run the whole operation so you don't have to, and maybe an assistant. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you could have 6 people, right? Those are my 6 people right there. If you had acquisitions, a money raiser, an asset manager, a bookkeeper, a COO, and an assistant, and on average, each of those people are costing you $100,000 on average. I mean, your COO is making more, but your assistant's making less. So you got $600,000 in salaries. Now, a lot of you are saying, well, shoot, how would I ever come up with $600,000 for salaries? You're buying 500 units. Though when you buy, especially if you're going to syndicate the deal, there's typically what's called acquisition fees. So what does 500 units cost right now? I don't know. Let's just call it, $15 million, $20 million, probably more than that. No, we're buying a 369 unit right now for $80 million. Let's just say this is $80 million. What is 2% of $80 million? 1.6 million?
1.6 mil.
All right. So if you had an acquisitions person who was amazing, you had a money raiser who was amazing, you had an asset manager that could manage amazing, you had a bookkeeper, a COO that ran the whole operation so you don't have to deal with it because you're the brand, you're the architect, and you had an assistant that took care of all your dry cleaning, could that group of people help you buy one $80 million apartment complex or 2 $40 million apartment complexes? I think so. I think they could probably do a lot more than that. In fact, that was my team at the beginning, and we did a lot more than that. So, okay. So if you had this team and you had this goal, as long as they hit the goal, you generate $1.6 million in fees. You only need $600K to pay for the team. So not only did you personally make $1 million in profit off buying the deal, which you're probably going to dump into your own deal because good syndicators always dump their extra money in their own deals. Because I don't think a syndicator should win really big until their team wins. That's just personal philosophy. But not only, you just bought an $80 million apartment building and you didn't have to do the work. Your team just did the work. That's how you 10x that. That's that mindset, right? Like this is like full circle. Like that's the brand. The brand hires the CEO, the COO. The COO hires the team. You set the goal, and at the end of the day, you're working a couple hours a week, making millions of dollars a year and millions of dollars in equity. By the way, that $80 million apartment building, you know what happens that over the next 5 to 7 years? It turns into a $130 million apartment building. You created $50 million in value. Your investors take 2/3 of that, maybe 3/4 of that. Okay, so you walk with $15 million. You walk with $15 million from one deal, and you worked 3 hours a week to get it. That's what I mean by you can 10x by working 10 times less.
Well, if you knowing what you know now? What would you have told that grocery guy bagging in Nelson's Market? Knowing what you know now about 10x, 4 levels of leadership, what would you say to that guy?
A couple of things. I think the biggest reason people don't elevate that mindset to a higher mindset level is because A, they don't know about it. Like they didn't even know that was a possibility, but now you all do. You don't have that excuse anymore. And B, they just don't believe that it's possible for them. Like our moms all told us, you can do anything if you try, right? You can do anything if you put your mind to it. And like, we know that, but we don't actually believe that in our heart. Like I wanted to be like a musician, like a rock star. Like, so I learned drums and I learned guitar when I was in high school. But I never actually believed I was going to be a musician and make it. And therefore, I didn't practice like a professional did. I didn't play like a professional. I never perfected it because I didn't really – if I had actually believed in my heart that it was possible to be a famous musician, I think I would have put in the work and then I would have become a famous musician. But I didn't believe it. So I guess the first thing I would tell people is – you've got to change that identity to actually believe you are capable and you are going to do this. You are going to buy a 500-unit apartment building. You are going to raise hundreds of millions of dollars over your career. You can do this. If I can do this, a kid raised in the Midwest from a meat cutter and a daycare mom doing, weekend garage sales, like you can do it as well. There's literally nothing stopping you from doing this other than like the thing between your ears. That's it. Yeah. So I'd tell that guy to get some confidence, grow up there.
Okay, any question? Next question. Okay, if you could start over with real estate, what would you do differently?
Yeah, I would do a couple of things. Number one, I would scale more rapidly. And what I mean by that is, and I'm not saying I did this terribly, but I got really comfortable with buying like a single house and then flipping it and then buying a rental house and then buying another flip. And I just kind of grew very slowly. Right. Because it was easy. Like once I had bought like 3 or 4 or 5 rental properties, I should have jumped into something bigger, like an apartment. And then once I did a 30-unit apartment, I should have jumped into something bigger. Secondly, if I were to do it all over again, I would never buy a single tool ever. My mindset started at the DIY level. So I was doing it all myself. I literally bought a book from Home Depot the day that I closed my first property called 1-2-3 Home Improvement. You can get it. It's orange. It's at Home Depot. And I learned how to do everything. I had no skill set, but I chose to solve the problem of fixing up a house by doing it myself. If I could do it differently, I would go back and I would be like, no, you are not allowed to touch a tool. Because when you do the work on a project, you are working for $20 an hour or $30 an hour. Instead, I would have worked at higher level, higher dollar, higher value skills like off-market deal finding. That's a way higher skill set. Or leadership, which is the highest skill set. That's what I would have done.
Okay, next question. Where do you see yourself, Brandon, in 5 years from now?
Leon. I saw that. That was hilarious. I don't know what that was. There's a ghost in your room. All right, Leon, let's talk about that 5 years from now. So our 10-year goal, which there's 9 years left on it from when we set it, is to have $10 billion of real estate. So in 5 years from now, I'll probably have somewhere in the $3 billion of real estate range. It would be my guess, maybe 4. We're just about to cross $1 billion by the end of this year. So I'll probably be like $3 billion in real estate. I'll probably have another kid or two because I like kids. And I'll probably be doing exactly what I'm doing today. And hopefully I'll be a better jiu-jitsu competitor because I get beat all the time right now, but I like jiu-jitsu. So
okay, let's go. One more question, Tam. Dan Shea asks, based on the current increase in interest rates, in your opinion, what's the best way for a new real estate investor to invest $100K?
Great question. All right, so investing $100,000 is a super interesting thing, right? Because you're at this cusp. If you had like $1 million or $500,000 to invest, the advice is very different. I would say like invest it with a fund like mine because you're probably way better earning money at your career, your job. And so you should make money at whatever business you have currently and dump it into passive investments. If you've got $5,000 to invest, well, you should clearly not invest it in a fund because it's going to grow way too slow. You got to multiply that money, flip houses, buy, house hack, do the BRRRR strategy, whatever. 100,000 is all right in the middle. And so really what I would say is it comes down to what fires you up. If you love the idea of getting in there and getting your hands dirty and building your own real estate portfolio and business, and you want to analyze the deals or you want to hire employees, then that 100 grand would be a great amount of money to start either flipping houses with, because that's a huge down payment for flips, or you could take that and start buying some multifamily with it. Buy a couple duplexes for $50,000 down payments, and now you're in the game. Or you could do the burst strategy. You could do that if you want to get in it. Or again, if that 100,000 came because you are really good at, like, you're a doctor or you're a lawyer, or you would rather spend your time building your, dog sitting business because you really think there's a lot of potential there, do that, and then dump the money into several different syndicator projects that you can just sit back and relax and let them build it for you. Because here's the reason why I say that is because, like, if you want to build a big business, do it, but only if it fires you up, because it takes years to get good at everything you need to be good at.
Yeah.
And the only way you're going to stick with it long enough to get good at it is if you actually enjoy it and it fires you up. So.
Yeah. So in terms of what you're up to these days, I know you're doing a lot of interesting things at Open Door Capital. Ultimately, so if people want to kind of connect with you, work with you, be a part of what you're doing, kind of share with us some thoughts on that.
Yeah, man. So if you want to connect with me on like social media, I'm on Instagram and TikTok at Beardy Brandon, and on Facebook too. I just don't use it much. Beard with a Y, Beardy Brandon. If you want to check out what we're doing with Open Door Capital, if you want to work with us, if you want to invest with us or anything, just if you want to look at it, just go to odcfund.com. ODC, like Open Door Capital, ODC, and then fund. FUND.com, and you can check out kind of what we're doing there. And even if you want to get into syndication someday or into the big commercial properties, go sign up for our email list on odcfund.com, and you'll see like how we do our business. You'll see how we send out emails, how we build trust over time, how we foster relationship at scale. And then you can use that for your own life. So it's a good, I always do that. I always sign up for other people's lists just so I can see how they do it and I can pull the best things. That's why I learn everything from Joe here, and I just steal everything he does.
Well, I've learned quite a lot from you today. This 10X concept, being a brand, a visionary, it's exciting stuff. You take something and create something from literally nothing. Brandon, this has been a fantastic interview. I've enjoyed it. I'm really, really appreciative of you taking the time to be here. Is there a final question I haven't asked you? How about that? That you think I should ask you?
I'm not currently single. No, I am married. No, man. I mean, you covered it all, man. You covered it all. You're a phenomenal host. Look at you.
Yeah, right.
See, Joe here has the brand. He's got the energy. Like he could eclipse me on my portfolio if he wanted it. But for some reason, he's like, "Oh, I like giving back to people and helping people." I don't know. Seems shady to me.
I like to build wealth and do good.
Communist.
No, I think that just like yourself, I love what I do. I've taken obviously a different track than you have. I've sort of stayed in the single family space, and and I really do enjoy giving opportunities to a lot of the families who I rent to. Hearing stories like I just heard a few weeks ago, where just by a family moving to one of my homes, the kids have been able to get full ride to go to college, full scholarships. I mean, just by living in a nice house in a decent area compared to where they used to be. And just really, I enjoy that. And it's not creepy. It's just good.
Joe, what if you could what if you could help 10 times as many people or 100 times as many people? And here's what I'm going to make this argument. You are, right? Because Joe, you have transitioned from Joe the investor to Joe the brand, the energy, and you are influencing hundreds, if not thousands or millions of people with your story. I mean, your episode of our Bigger Pockets podcast is one of our biggest of all time. And hundreds of thousands of people have heard what you've done, even myself included, and changed how they invest and how they help people because of your story. So you, my friend, are the perfect example. You are the brand, and you're changing lives.
Huh.
Look at you, man.
Well, here's what. Let me give you a scenario that happened to me a couple of years ago. I was talking to my mother. Okay. And my mother is probably like your mother. She's just a regular person, and so on. And she's not a real estate investor. And she comes to me and says, "Joe, when is enough enough? Mm-hmm. Why are you doing this? When is enough enough?"
I get that same question all the time.
You know, and that was it kind of threw me off a little bit. And because it's a legitimate question, when is enough enough? And why are you doing this? And so on. And my response to her was, if I don't do what I'm doing, who's going to provide these housing to these families? If I don't do what I'm doing, who's going to give these opportunities to these folks? If I don't do it, who's going to do it? And it kind of dawned on me, then if I don't want to 10x my business, then maybe what I can do is to show other people what I do, so therefore they can replicate what I'm doing and hopefully building wealth for themselves and doing good for themselves as well. And that's sort of my, roundabout way of why I do what I do. I
love it. I love it, man. You're changing lives, dude.
There it goes. Okay, then, Brandon. I didn't have all the questions. We had lots of questions, but we didn't get to it. But again, I want to thank you, Brandon, for taking time out of your busy schedule to be with us. And hopefully one day I'm going to be at BPCon, so hopefully we'll bump into each other there. And again, I might
look right over you. You're gonna have to hit me, and then I'll look down and see you. It's okay.
Yeah, right. Well, David Green's a pretty tall guy as well.
Yeah, I mean, if you consider 6'2" tall, I mean, I think it's kind of short, but whatever. It's all perspective.
Okay. Anyway, close that. So, if anybody wants to go to our website, we have a BRRRR Ultimate BRRRR strategy checklist that I developed based on my experiences doing the BRRRR with a big city twist. So go to my website, Dr. Joe, which is joeasamoah.com, joeasamoah.com. You can download the checklist for free, and it kind of gives you some of my ideas of lessons learned and so on. So go to my Ultimate BRRRR strategy checklist. I didn't create BRRRR. Mr. Brandon Turner created BRRRR. But I was doing BRRRR. Well, I was doing BRRRR before Brandon was born. How about that?
That's gonna be your new book title, by the way. BRRRR before Brandon was born. The BBBB method.
Is that right? Okay, Brandon, thank you very much. And again, this is wrapping up for the Wealth Wednesday. Join us every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. We're going to have some great information, great content, and looking forward to seeing you next Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. Thank you very much. Stay on, Brandon. Thanks.